Anybody like to comment on work session related items tonight? Seeing none, presentation of substance education and awareness to youth. Welcome.
Welcome. I have a few handouts I brought for you guys.
Sure.
Just a sample of what some of our campaigns, but real briefly, my name is Sarah Garthy, and I work for Central Wellness Network, and I am the facilitator of the Manistee Coalition. So we have been going on a few years now, and this is our third year with youth. And we are really excited. And last year they worked really hard to work on youth vaping, and they just want to share with you some of their thoughts on youth vaping and what they're doing about it. So
Sure.
It's just kind of thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. And I'll hand the stuff out and I'll turn it over to Ryan and Gracie.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a few things tonight. Our perspective, the youth perspective of vaping, both from students who are on the coalition as well as the majority of the students in the high school, and how it impacts us as youth, as well as what we're doing to address the vaping problem that we have here. So I first want to say that more students and youth are vaping than we think, and it's not necessarily the people that you would think that are vaping. People of
any like background or like any stereotype that would be considered, do it.
I would say on an estimate around 70% of the students at Manistee High School vape, if not daily, multiple times a day, and I would say a good 50% of them like own a vape and are severely addicted to the nicotine that are actually in the vapes. And the scary part for me is that it happens everywhere. People go to their car, like if they have they'll sign out of the office and go and vape in their car. People go to the bathroom and vape, which is also really not okay because the bathrooms smell really, really bad, and it's causing destruction of the property because groups of people go into the little stalls or whatever and vape together. And then what's also I find most disturbing is people are doing it during class while some of the teachers are teaching. If a teacher's lecturing, they'll have it in their sweatshirt, and then they'll take vape and then blow the cloud back into their sweatshirt, and it's virtually unnoticeable unless you smell the smell of the vapor itself.
And then people that are doing it, especially from the standpoint of high school students, there's a lot of people that think that, oh, this is okay because they think that there's not any long-term health issues like there is with cigarettes or anything of that sort. So people just continuously do it, and then on top of that, there's an aspect of everyone starting to do it because they think, oh, this is going to make me cooler and everyone's going to like me, and it just is actually super bad for their health, and it also makes a lot of people around them really uncomfortable seeing other people doing it because it puts them in a uncomfortable situation of, well, I don't want to be around this, but there's not really any way to get away from it because it's in the school.
And as far as us, it impacts us. I mean, we're going around doing all these presentations at schools and stuff, so it's impacted us in the way that we're able to spread the message and stuff like that. But as far as other youth, in a negative impact, I get a headache when I smell it. Certain scents and flavors of the juice will give me a headache if it's a lot of it. As Gracie said, it puts people in an awkward position, especially when people ask you if you want to try the vape, and no, and then you're just kind of sitting there while the rest of the people are vaping. And also if someone's sitting next to you in class, it's distracting because you can you tell they're doing it, but you're trying to focus on the teacher who's lecturing, but yet this person next to you is vaping and it smells like bubble gum or cotton candy or whatever flavor they have in the vape itself. As well as it's impacting our school, physical property of the school is being damaged too. Like I said, in the bathrooms at the school, our upstairs bathroom in the commons only has one door on the stalls. In the boys' bathroom, there's 4 stalls, but the other 3 doors got broken off when people tried to force groups of students into the bathroom, into the individual stalls to vape, and they'll try and put 3 or 4 people in one stall and have a little gathering party in the bathroom, and they go in the stall so they can't be seen by staff from the hallway, or if a teacher or an aide or someone walks in the bathroom, that way they're not you can't see them actually just standing around vaping. They go in the bathrooms But now it's like impacting me because I have to wait in a line because there's only one functional bathroom with that many students. It can be a little difficult.
And then like stuff that we try to do to help is we've done multiple presentations at 7 or 8 different schools to make awareness, and then we teach peer refusal skills, and coming from other like high schoolers, it tends to be more effective with high schoolers since they're not
With
getting it from an
peers,
adult,
yeah.
they're getting it from someone their own age.
I would say one of the biggest issues that I've seen is the misconceptions with it. Most people think it's just like a water vapor that has like a little cotton candy juice or bubble gum scent or something like in that, but it's an aerosol, and there's particles and chemicals like arsenic and formaldehyde, and there's a big long list of all the stuff that's actually creates all of the juices, and that's all the stuff that you're putting into your body, and people don't realize that that's actually what they're doing. And it's now illegal it's always been illegal for underage people to purchase the products, but the problem is that if I want to get a vape, I can't go buy it, but if I have a of age friend or brother or sister or something, it's just as easy as giving them the money, and they go to the vape shop or order it off of Amazon themselves. And it's a huge problem, and that's the easiest way to get it. It's not that difficult for people to, for students and people who are underage to get the vapes, even though it is illegal. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Hmm?
Yes, I do have a question.
Absolutely.
When, like in school, I assume that it's not allowed. vaping.
No,
No,
yeah.
it's not.
So what action do the students take against those that are vaping? Is there anything that you can do or that you do? Do you report them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so-
you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of times, especially during lunch, kids will go in the bathroom, so that in that kind of case, we'll just go, like, if someone notices, they'll go to Mr. Huber and be like, hey, this is happening. And then, but they can't really do anything unless they catch them or get like solid evidence of them having a vape with them or seeing them vaping. So monitoring is kind of a little bit of a problem.
It's different when someone's caught with it in their hand underneath a stairwell by like an aide who's like a hall monitor, but there's obviously not cameras in the bathroom, so it's the perfect place to do it because there's no physical evidence of it's hearsay. You can't like prove that they were in there doing that versus just my word versus theirs. So it's difficult.
So what are the consequences if you get caught vaping?
So if they're caught, the principal, which is Mr. Huber, he calls the police, they get an MIP, and then there's like 3 to 5 days of a suspension from school.
And you can also, you also can write a paper about the dangers of vaping to reduce it to like 1 or 2 days, I believe. But I mean, that's not stopping. I know people have been suspended and their vapes are confiscated multiple times, and they just go get a new one because obviously the school doesn't give them back, and they're costly, so they just save up and buy a new one, and then it's a never-ending cycle because of the nicotine addiction.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah.
Let's, you obviously have a lot of passion against vaping. If you could decide how you would handle the situation, what would you do?
I would provide support for people who are addicted to it, addicted to the nicotine, because I believe that I know that most of the people who are doing it now understand the dangers of vaping, because we've done multiple presentations in our own school, and most of them understand, and they admit they understand, and they also admit that they're addicted to it. And when they try to stop, they can't. They can't. And being a teenager, we're not equipped with the skills and the resources to stop the addiction, if that makes sense. And I feel like it's just we're providing some supports with it, like the brochures and the materials and stuff like that. But it's just I don't know what the support would look like. I just think that there needs to be some sort of support.
What Gracie and Ryan are doing for us is working on prevention. So they're really focusing on once you're addicted, that's a whole other issue, and that requires intervention. Prevention is with the middle schoolers, late elementary age kids. So they've been talking to 6th through 8th graders who haven't quite started yet vaping to try to prevent it. And I think prevention as well as intervention they both are needed, right, guys?
I would agree, because it's easier to stop someone from doing it in the first place than it is to try and get someone to stop an addiction that they've had for 2 years already. Today I actually did a presentation for the 6th grade class at Manistee, and you could see some light bulbs go off in their head as I showed them pictures of popcorn lung and other side effects of vaping, and just talk to them about what it is and why it's bad. And it, like Gracie said, it's different coming from a student that you see in the hallway versus your teacher or your principal, who you can feel like is there to like catch you with it. But we can't do anything. We can't like harm them at all. So we're just giving them information for it.
Sure.
One of the things, I'm sorry, I've worked with these kids back when I worked with the Armory, and have been I worked with this group back when I worked with the Armory, and saw firsthand of all the work they've done with this. And I've had my experience with my stepson, and part of this is you can smoke marijuana through these vapes. So it's not only nicotine, but kids are hiding marijuana in these, and they're more harmful. They're more powerful smoking nicotine through here as well. So it's really, so they're really trying to outreach to these kids and get word out. But yeah,
I have
that.
some questions. You had some statistics in the beginning of your presentation, and I didn't get a chance to write them down about how many students were using it.
Yeah, I would.
Could you repeat those?
Yeah, we talked about it, and we would estimate around 70% have done it once a day, like every so often, like 70% of people participate in it. I'd say a good 50% of the people are addicted to it, own their own, do it between each passing time. And we have the survey. But
Yeah, the Michigan Profile for Healthy Youth is a survey that students take, and 2 years ago, this is a new year now, so we'll get new data this summer about what the rates are, but 2 years ago, it was almost 40%. So we think it has increased, talking to school.
Okay,
So
I was curious how you collected your
Yeah.
data.
Is it 40% who have tried it, or 40% who are using it?
I think I'd have to read the question again on the MyFi, because it's one-time use or it's ongoing use. I believe it's have used in the past 30 days. So it's like have used recently.
I just in the last 2 years, because I saw it when we first started this group, and I see it today at school, that the increase in the peer pressure for it has increased just in the last 2 years too. It's grown, and the problem has just grown significantly in the last 2 years. So I'm very interested to see what the data shows, and we can compare between the two surveys from 2 years ago.
So what happened to the people who smoked cigarettes? Have they all gone away and just gone to vaping, or are they another subset of people who are now consuming and using vaping products?
According to the MyFi data, smoking combustible cigarettes is pretty low. Alcohol use, marijuana, and vaping are the top three, and those are over 30%. They vary. I don't have the stats with me, but combustible cigarette smoking for youth is low because youth do know the risks of that. Vaping is it's packaged differently, and it was advertised as safe. So
Wasn't there, like, there was a hole between, because vaping was so new, and you might help me out here, Chris, you can purchase a vape when you're a minor.
yeah, the actual vape device was legal. There was a loophole in the law, and now that has been changed. But you're right. Is that what you're talking about, Aaron?
Yeah, because so a minor could get caught with a vape.
Instrument.
Yes, as long as there wasn't any material in it. So they couldn't get away. So that's been altered. Now they can get taken away since September. Right.
Yeah, exactly. One of the scariest things that we've noticed is just because a lot of times the juices and the stuff that you put into them contain like things like marijuana or nicotine, even if they're advertised that it does not contain that. And that's just because the FDA has not, they don't regulate this type of stuff. They don't regulate the facilities that they're made in. So a lot of mystery ingredients are put into these to make the flavor taste like real bubble gum, and there's no like regulations for any of it. It's getting better. We've had laws that have been passed, but it's just a lot of stuff that is advertised that it's nicotine free, it's marijuana free, it's so and so free. If you actually like break it down and like do like tests on it, it actually contains the chemicals themselves.
So I have another question, back to the stalls with the doors, they're not getting replaced at school? The key,
This has been a recent thing, like I'd say in the last month. Like they all kind of got torn down, and it's been students who have been breaking them. But I'd say in the last like month, there's 4 stalls, 3 of them have been torn off the wall, and then the 4th one you can't close. It's broken, but it like closes, but not like latches all the way. So.
Now, are there more men vaping, or is it split somewhat evenly between men and women?
I would say it's split pretty evenly. I would just say that the women don't go in big groups of people. They'll go like 2 at a time, and especially like when I see it in the bathroom, one will go in the stall. They'll have the vape. They'll vape for like a moment. They'll go out of the stall. They'll pass it to their friend, and then their friend goes in.
Or when I've witnessed it in the bathroom, and I've actually caught multiple people vaping in the bathroom, there'll be like a group of 4 to 6 guys in a stall crammed in there all together, all have their own vapes vaping, and there's just like a cloud of chemicals rising from the stall.
Does the superintendent and school board know about this?
We have not presented to them.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I think you should.
We'll work on that.
Especially the school board. I
Yeah.
don't know about the superintendent, the school board.
I know our principal is very, very active in this group as well, and he actually pushes for the presentations like crazy. So
That's what's his name, Uber? What's your principal's name?
Andy Huber.
Huber, okay.
Yeah.
I know he is.
Yeah, but I know that like the doors, and the school did not take them down. They were like broken, like they were not able to be fixed. Like the door was in half, or like it like was beyond repairable, because they're like metal doors. So once it's like bent, you can't really fix it.
Do the parents get involved in this, or do they let the school just handle it in-house?
So, I should let you talk. I'm sorry.
So there's of course like a phone call to parents if a student is caught, but part of the problem is that a lot of parents don't know the risks as well, and they don't really do anything to stop their kids. They might ground them, and then that's as far as that punishment goes, and then their kids just go back to doing it because their parents aren't enforcing any rules on it.
A lot of times parents themselves are vaping, so it's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to say don't do that when they're like vaping themselves, and like Gracie said, the misconceptions are carried over to the.
Are you gonna do a presentation for the parents so they get an idea?
We had one last year.
We have another one this year, don't we?
Coming up this year. I don't know the date, but that's our May, yeah. And then our actual SAD group at the school did one last year as well. But do you have the date of the? We had a anti-vaping video competition last year at the Vogue Theater as part of our town hall, and we're doing the same thing this year, but we're going to do prevention skits, peer resistance skits. So that's part of our presentation now, as we're teaching students about the dangers of vaping, as well as how to step away without causing a scene and losing your friends over that just because you don't want to vape. So it's a whole skill set that we're teaching younger students, and that's what the town hall is going to be based upon.
the parent meeting that they had was very good. I went to it. I learned a lot. A lot of the vaping things I thought were the charger cord. I found one and I thought it was a charging cord to a laptop. Like these things, not a lot of people would know what they were. The jewels for the tasting, I thought they were like little cassettes. I mean, I would have never known if I wouldn't have come to those meetings. So they are very prepared and are doing wonders for the community. So.
You mentioned briefly that there was a difference between trying to make sure that people didn't start and then an intervention program. Is there an established intervention program where somebody can voluntarily go to the health nurse and say, look, I'm addicted to this, how can I be helped?
Currently, we make referrals to the health department. They will see teenagers there. There is a nicotine addiction specialist there at the health department. So that's one of the only resources we know about. And then there's a hotline. So I think youth would have to have somebody call with them, but that's not ongoing support. So we are looking at what we can do for youth.
But right now, there's no volunteer program where somebody can walk in and kind of, throw their cigarettes in the basket and say,
No, and I've asked the police, because we do take-back days for prescription drugs. I asked if we could do take-back days for vaping, and they cannot take them right now because of the dangers of them exploding. So they're not able yet to take them back. So hopefully we can change that too, so that we can dispose of the devices. But
I will say one thing that's been more prevalent in social media has been people who have had to have surgery or their lungs removed, like parts of their lungs removed or surgery or stuff. They really push for intervention and stuff like that, and that's on social media. And like I know everybody that I know has some sort of social media, so that's like a presence that they're seeing that it's coming from a negative situation, but at least the people who have been through those experiences are advocating for it. And I know there's one teenager in North Carolina who started an entire nonprofit foundation. It's called Lung Love, and it's about getting people who are addicted to vaping and nicotine to stop. And it's a campaign where you post videos smashing your vape with a hammer, and you send them to him, and then he posts them, and it's like congratulations and stuff like that. So those types of situations are becoming more and more common, but only because of medical and negative situations that have come of vaping in the first place.
You know of any places that do take the pipes back and that?
not right now, no.
Anybody else?
I'm a little alarmed that the school isn't taking more action to monitor the bathrooms. These statistics are really kind of scary.
Tearing apart the bathrooms and it's only 10 years old.
One thing I know is, like, staff-wise, they only have so many monitors for the hall, and even I know Miss Nowicki, who's our vice principal, she even roams around the halls and hall monitors quite a bit. But because there's not as many hall monitors, there's not much that they can really do, because they can try as hard as they want to try and find them. But if there's not enough of them to be around when it's happening, then the chances of people getting caught are really low.
One thing that our principal, Mr. Huber, has been looking into is possibly closing certain bathrooms during certain times, like the commons bathrooms during lunch, because we know that that's a really hot spot for people to go do it. So we would those bathrooms would not be accessible during that time. That has not happened yet, but that's something that we actually talked about at our last youth involvement meeting. But the bathroom is a very difficult place to monitor it because it's a bathroom. You can't put cameras in a bathroom to catch people, and it'd be awkward to have a staff member stand in the bathroom while other people are using the restroom.
I know Mr. Huber's not here, but I know vaping is super hard to catch. Kids do it in class all the time, and the teachers turn around, and by the time they turn around, the cloud is gone. So it's super hard to detect, and so we're trying to get the word out and have kids check each other and report each other, which is hard, but some kids are doing it.
Yeah, Mr. Huber even said today at our 6th grade presentation, he's like, the odds of you getting caught vaping in the act of it here at school is very, very low. That's why we're not telling you're going to get suspended for 2 weeks because you're vaping or whatever the punishment is. We're giving you the information, so we're preventing it from happening, because it's kind of to the point where it's difficult, if not nearly impossible, to catch people actually doing it because it's so quick.
I have one last question. Me as an individual, other than being informed, what can I do?
Yeah, we have our Talk Sooner campaign. Yeah, Sarah's going to talk about our campaign that we're doing this year.
We are, so our coalition overall uses a prevention model. We use the Communities That Care framework, and what one thing we're doing with the youth and one of our big campaigns, you may have seen our billboards up. We have a billboard coming up, I believe, tomorrow with youth on it, but it's about Talk Sooner, and I gave some handouts to you guys. That's a regional and statewide campaign that we are a part of, and it's really giving parents tools. You can get on the website or get on your smartphone and look it up. What are the substances? Educate yourself. What are the substances being used? What do they look like? And then how do you talk to youth at different ages to prevent it? So on the website, they talk about if you have a preschooler, we talk about being healthy, or if you have a high schooler, here's what you can talk about, more of the dangers of vaping. So it's a tool that we're giving parents, and we have this, and we present it wherever we're out in the community. So we've given it to parents at town halls, and we have billboards up a few times a year regarding Talk Sooner. And so that's one of the things you could do.
I would also say something just as simple as taking the information that you now know and spreading that to other people, because the more the information gets out, the more people are aware, and the more it will prevent people, the more that they know the risks and the dangers and how it affects other people in their lives.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Now that you guys are all informed of it, just kind of be an advocate for it. If you see like somebody in need, like try and offer support for them as much as possible, like as much as you can do. But just now that you know, let other people know.
Well, thank you very much. It's been interesting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Presentation by Mr. Taylor on quarterly strategic plan.
Yeah, it hasn't been too long since we've talked about this, so there's not a lot new. We got a little off track last year, and we're trying to get back on track in terms of doing it once a quarter. So again, anything new is in red. I'll just go over some of the things that we've done, and council's aware that we're rolling out our new logo. We've got that on the website and the Facebook page. We're working, some of the departments are already using the letterhead, and we're ordering our new business cards to include cards for council. So that's been going on. Continue our efforts on rail relocation. About a week ago, we had a meeting here where there was a group of people representing federal legislators. We had representatives from Stabenow's office, Peter's office, and Bergman's office, as well as Representative O'Malley was here in person. Senator Vanderwall's staff person was here, and some other people. And we had a telephone conference call with the Army Corps of Engineers as well as Eagle to talk about the feasibility of putting a bridge across Manistee Lake at the very south portion. So we continue to work with other community partners on exploring rail relocation, because it has a lot of potential impacts. Get rid of the blighted look along 31 through town, reduce the number of crossings, not only across 31 but across the river, open up areas for redevelopment as well as corridors for rails. So there's a lot of implications if we can get it moved. On the third page, probably the biggest highlight is last Wednesday, the DDA board approved the services agreement with the city, as well as an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce for Economic Development Services. We hope to have the services agreement on the next city council agenda for approval. I don't know when the chamber is going to take action on that. I think they'll sign it as soon as it's presented to them. We're working on our redevelopment ready recertification. County Planning Department is spearheading that. We had a meeting before the holidays with a representative from the state office of redevelopment ready, and just to go over the steps we had to complete to do our recertification. And it's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it makes sure that we have the best practices in place, but also now MEDC is requiring communities to have that certification before as a matter of getting grants. So we were way ahead of the game. We're still working on putting together our building asset management plan. That's moving forward. Let's see, some of the other highlights.
Can I ask you a question about the
Sure.
asset management plan? With budget time coming up, is that something we'll be able to address, or?
The
All-
asset management?
Yeah.
What we're looking at, that's going to be obviously a point of discussion for the budget. We're also going to be approaching council at the February work session to talk about what we have to do to protect our shoreline in the river channel. And about the only funding option we have is to go out for a bond. And we're exploring other items that council might want to consider to bond for in terms of facility improvements or just, any infrastructure improvements in the city. So more to come in February.
Did the state ever get back to us about the,
Resolution?
yeah,
They haven't directly. It was nice to hear at that meeting on railroad relocation, I asked the representatives from Stabenow and Peters' office to remain, and we talked a little bit about that. They said the governor's office has reached out to FEMA to inquire about that, and FEMA has said that the state hasn't exhausted their resources, so they're not inclined to get involved. So I think right now it has to hinge on the governor declaring a disaster before things will get moving. I did get an email article from Jeff Dantz this week, and apparently Representative Huizinga and Representative Upton and I believe Congressman Bergman have reached out to FEMA about assistance. So there's some discussions at much higher levels on that, but the governor hasn't directly responded to our resolution. But there are things going on. Jeff has been working on energy saving initiatives. In one of the weekly updates, we're involved in a program with Consumers Energy that if they have a extraordinary need for power, we can take some of our facilities offline, run them on generators, and that will save us about $6,000 a year. He noted in this particular update that we got a $17,000 rebate from Consumers Power because we installed a variable frequency drive at the wastewater treatment plant. Bottom line is we're looking at any and all efforts to save on energy consumption or to get some rebates from the energy companies for the measures that we're taking. Staff is working on the TIP plan. That's going to be updated. Let's see what else. There's going to be a report out from the Ad hoc Blight Committee. I think that's going to be coming to the February work session. They have a number of recommendations that they're going to put in front of council for consideration, so that's moving forward. We raised our seasonal launch ramp fees to try to generate a little extra dollars, so that's something new. We're still worried, obviously, about the high lake levels. Again, we're getting informed that the lakes are going to go up another 10 to 12 inches, so it's not going to get any better. And so it's one of the probably about the only negative thing about living on the Great Lakes is the fluctuations of the water levels. I think that's the high part. In terms of housing, I wanted to mention that a little bit. I've been talking with some community partners about funding a position to focus exclusively on housing and primarily on neighborhood housing. I've been finding that there is some interest in doing that. Last week, I spoke with Sarah Teeter from CEDAM. Sarah was the individual that oversaw the fellowship program for Project Rising Tide. And apparently there's an initiative trying to gain some steam between MEDC and CEDM, where MEDC would potentially provide funds to redevelopment-ready communities to help offset the cost of an individual to work in the community on specific projects. I explained to her what we were trying to do with housing, and she was going to take that as an example, and they're going to be meeting later this week on that. So there is a opportunity to fund a position that would deal expressly on neighborhood housing and some other issues. The group that I'm working with, we've asked Sarah Lucas from Housing North to put together an action plan for us. In fact, that's something that Housing North is working with other communities, where communities would contract with Housing North for a specific individual to work with them. So that's moving forward. But that's the highlights I wanted to bring to council's attention on the strategic plan. Is there any questions you might have?
Yeah. Do you have any update about Century Terrace?
The only thing I know is they will be at the February work session to talk about their plans in terms of converting to that RAD program.
Were they still going to be doing any updates and making it senior housing or anything?
Well, that's all part of this conversion to RAD, yeah. In terms of turning that back into the seniors, they're doing that through attrition. So it's not an overnight, something that's gonna happen overnight.
When are they supposed to put out the request for contractors?
I don't know, and I hope to hear some more about it in February.
I'd like to go to the meeting and
Yep.
find out.
And were we working still towards any broadband for the city, or?
I think we're pretty well covered in the city, and my understanding is the issues that we have is out county. It's surprising there's a number of places out county that just don't have real reliable broadband services. But in town, we have the Spectrum Charter, and that if people want to take advantage of, it's available.
I learned something interesting today. It was at a meeting, it was over at Horizon Point, and one of the tenants that live in the building is a friend of mine, and she wanted to talk to me specifically about how well run it is. She said that, and that's one of Hollander's projects. She believes I think he got his low-income credit, or his credits for low-income housing through MISTA. I'm not sure
Right.
for that. But MISTA comes in once a year and inspects each and every apartment that's in the building. And they know in advance when that's going to happen. So they go in, Hollander's group goes in, or his development company goes in, management company goes in, and makes sure that everything is up to snuff in every single apartment. So I think that really speaks well of him as a manager. So and she's a very astute person that lives over there, very well educated. She's one of those people that is paying market rates on her apartment only because she doesn't want to deal with outside maintenance in a yard anymore. So it was really good to hear that. And I want to know exactly when Hollander is going to start his project.
We don't know. I had an email correspondence with him last week. The bids came in high. He's looking, he's having the construction company look another time at it. In the staff meeting today, we heard from Kyle's story that if he can't get his numbers where he needs them to be, he's going to come back to look at an amendment or some revisions to the planned unit development so they can go up a few foot and get a pitched roof, and that would lower the cost of construction. So that's the best I know right now.
I think it would be worthwhile because I think people are becoming more and more interested in environmental issues. If we had somebody come in and talk to us and maybe the developers in particular about what kind of energy-saving ideas they're gonna put in these projects. I think it's something we should push them to do, because we want who's ever living there to have, you know, whatever reductions they can gain from having, say, lead lighting put in and more energy efficient, you know, technology in these apartments would be much beneficial. So, and from what I understand now, talking to a few other people, is that is really something that they are trying to do. A lot of developers
Right.
are trying to do, but I don't think the public is aware of that, because I think they have a bad opinion of these kind of developments, that they're shoddy workmanship and they're put together too fast, and there's a lot of negativity about that. But I think it would be worthwhile to really hear the truth on that.
I could mention that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Taylor, do you have anything else?
No?
Then we're adjourned.
Oh, I do,
Oh.
sorry. I just wanted to know if there's an update on the deer call. I know there was a letter sent out to all the parents at school,
Right.
and I didn't know if there was an update for us as
What-
council.
No, there's nothing imminent. I saw that same letter.
I was surprised that
Yeah, yeah.
parents got it,
and-
but not the city.
Well, and that the date is not correct. It's in that letter. And
I got asked a couple things, and I was
yeah.
not prepared to answer.
Oh, I know. I was not, I didn't know that date was out there. So it's not going to happen on that date. It's going to happen relatively soon, and council will be notified before it takes place.
Okay, so I can tell people that's not correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.